Some children learn how to play, some children learn how to dream, and some children learn how to survive. Not because they wanted to, but because they had to. If you grew up too fast, you probably didn't notice it while it was happening. There was no moment when someone sat you down and said, "Your childhood is about to disappear." It didn't happen suddenly. It happened slowly, quietly, one responsibility at a time, one emotional burden at a time. One day you simply realized that being a child was no longer an option, because someone had to be the strong one, and somehow that someone became you. Most children grow up believing the world is safe. They believe someone will protect them. They believe mistakes are allowed, and that if they fall apart, someone will help them put themselves back together. But children who grow up too fast learn something very different. They learn the world is unpredictable. They learn adults are not always reliable. They learn emotions are not always welcomed. And when that realization comes too early, something inside the child quietly changes. Instead of asking, "Who will take care of me?" they begin asking, "Who needs me to be strong right now?" That is the moment childhood begins to slowly disappear. It doesn't disappear dramatically. It fades away through small invisible adjustments. You start watching the emotions of everyone around you. You learn to notice tension in the room. You start adjusting your behavior to avoid conflict. You become careful with your words. You learn when to stay silent. Over time, you become the emotionally responsible one, even though you were never supposed to carry that kind of weight. Children who grow up too fast often appear extremely mature. Teachers notice it. Relatives praise it. People say things like, "You're so responsible for your age," or "You're very mature." At first, those words sound like compliments, but what people don't see is what that maturity cost you, because that maturity wasn't a gift. It was a survival skill. You didn't become mature because life was easy. You became mature because life demanded it. You learned how to read people's emotions. You learned how to sense tension before anyone said a word. You learned how to keep the peace, and slowly you became the person who holds everything together. Many people who grow up too fast develop a strange ability without realizing it. Their brain constantly scans the emotional environment. They notice the smallest changes in someone's tone. They sense irritation before it becomes anger. They detect tension before anyone else even recognizes it. And when they sense it, their mind immediately goes into adjustment mode. They soften their voice. They choose their words carefully. They try to calm the situation before it gets worse. Because somewhere in childhood, their brain learned that keeping the people around them emotionally stable meant staying safe. But when a child becomes responsible for emotional stability too early, something important happens. They stop prioritizing their own feelings, not because they don't have emotions, but because expressing them starts to feel dangerous or inconvenient. Maybe their sadness was ignored, maybe their anger caused problems. Maybe their needs felt like a burden to others, so their brains slowly developed a strategy. If emotions create problems, hide them. Over time, this becomes automatic. They become calm, composed, and dependable. They become the person everyone relies on. But deep inside, something else is happening. When someone suppresses their emotions long enough, they eventually lose the ability to recognize what they truly feel. People who grew up too fast often feel older than everyone around them, even when they are still young. They feel like they have experienced more emotional complexity than their peers. While others appear carefree and relaxed, they feel like they are carrying invisible responsibilities. This happens because their brain was introduced to emotional complexity too early. Instead of gradually learning how the world works, they had to understand it immediately. While other children were learning how to play, they were learning how to navigate emotional tension and unpredictability. One of the most confusing things about growing up too fast is the strength it creates. On the surface, these individuals appear incredibly capable. They can stay calm under pressure. They can support others when they are falling apart. They can handle stressful situations with surprising composure. People often admire this strength. They assume it comes from confidence or emotional stability. But the truth is that this strength was built through necessity. They became strong because weakness didn't feel safe. They became independent because relying on others felt uncertain. They became responsible because someone had to be. But strength built from survival comes with a hidden cost. That cost is often exhaustion. Many people who grew up too fast struggle with something unexpected later in life. Rest becomes uncomfortable. When life becomes calm, their minds start searching for problems. When things are quiet, they feel uneasy, almost like something is about to go wrong. This happens because their nervous system became used to constant alertness. Their brain learned that stability might be temporary, so it stays prepared. It keeps scanning, watching, and anticipating the next emotional storm, even when there isn't one. Another common pattern that appears later in life is people-pleasing, but this is not the superficial kind. It goes much deeper. These individuals don't just want others to like them, they want others to feel okay. They want people to feel calm, safe, and understood. Their brain learned something very early. If the people around them are emotionally stable, then everything will feel safe. So they become the mediator, the listener, the problem solver, and the emotional support system for everyone around them. But over time, something important gets lost. They become so focused on managing other people's emotions that they forget to ask themselves a simple question: what do I actually need? Many people who grew up too fast also experience a subtle feeling of not fully belonging anywhere. As children, they felt older than their peers, but as adults, some parts of them feel like they never had the chance to develop naturally. They may be extremely responsible, but unsure how to relax. They may be very supportive of others, but uncomfortable receiving support themselves. They may appear confident and strong, yet struggle with vulnerability. For many people, the realization comes much later in life, sometimes in their 20s, sometimes in their 30s, and sometimes even later. It happens during a quiet moment when they start noticing patterns in their life. They notice how often they take responsibility for everything. They notice how quickly they step in to support others. They notice how difficult it is to slow down and simply exist. And eventually they ask themselves a question that changes everything. Why do I always feel like it's my job to hold everything together? Understanding the answer to that question often brings a sense of clarity. Growing up too fast was not a sign of weakness, it was adaptation. The brain looked at the environment and developed strategies to survive. Those strategies created real strengths. Emotional awareness, resilience, independence, and responsibility are all valuable qualities. But the problem is that the brain never learned when it was finally safe to stop operating in survival mode. Children are meant to learn emotional safety during childhood. They are meant to experience moments where they can make mistakes without fear, moments where they can express emotions without consequences, moments where someone else carries the responsibility for them. When those experiences are missing, the brain continues operating as if survival mode is still necessary. However, there is something important to remember. Just because emotional safety was not fully learned during childhood does not mean it cannot be learned later. Awareness is often the first step. Understanding why certain patterns developed allows people to stop blaming themselves for behaviors that once protected them. Many adults who grew up too fast eventually realize something surprising. They were never too sensitive. They were never too emotional. They were never too much. They were simply children responding to situations that required more strength than a child should ever have to carry. And when a child carries adult responsibilities for long enough, they begin to believe that this is simply who they are. But it is. It is the role they had to play. And even if childhood moved too quickly, even if responsibility replaced play, even if strength became their identity, there is still a part of them that never disappeared. The curious part, the creative part, the part that once wanted to explore the world freely without fear. That part doesn't vanish, it simply waits. And the moment someone begins to reconnect with that part of themselves, something slowly begins to change. Life becomes more than survival, because surviving childhood was only the beginning. Learning how to truly live is the chapter that comes next.